What is up, gamers? Stackswell's back at it again today with another market watch. Prism cards still going crazy on the back of the broken Prism spoiler weapon that we got. I'm actually not sure how broken it is, but it's definitely a starch upgrade from the old or the middle Luminaris, I guess, the middle one. So a lot of people are very excited about it, and the market is obviously reflecting that. I was kind of waiting to drop this market watch until we got that Runeblade spoiler. A little disappointing. The Runeblade spoiler wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be. As a Runeblade stan myself, I was kind of hoping for something a little bit better. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing with that spoiler. Maybe there's some synergies that I just am not realizing it. Let me know in the comments below if there is. People did a lot of specking into the angels prior to the Prism spoiler, or into everything Prism prior to the Prism spoiler, and not so much into the Runeblade cards prior to the Runeblade spoiler. A little bit odd there, but I guess it worked out. Yeah, like I said, the Prism spoiler was definitely a lot better than the Runeblade spoilers were. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump straight into this market. Let's see what's going on here. 160 for the Cold Foil Figment of Protection. This is obviously the best angel and always the most expensive one. Gorgeous art too. I actually love this. This was my profile picture for quite some time. I love the art so much. Figment of Protection is up to 160. Figment of Erudition is up to 150 here. And then even the bad figments, Figment of Judgment, is up to $75. All, of course, for the Marvels I'm speaking of. And if you guys remember, every time like these spoilers generate all of this hype and things like that, when the cards actually come out, it always goes down every time. The hype is always more expensive than the actual drop of the cards. We remember this from when all the Vincent cards got spoiled, or the original Prism got spoiled in Dusk Till Dawn. Everything just went crazy, and then when the cards actually dropped, everything kind of came back to earth a little bit. Actually, a lot of it. It wasn't even like it was like the prices dropped so much, like 30% or something like that. For that reason, I would say hold off on all of this if you're thinking of making Prism or something like that. Even if you have your mind set on it, you have your heart set on it, just kind of wait. I think once people start playing this, a lot of people are going to realize this isn't quite as broken as they thought, or maybe it's not their play style, or maybe they have half the figments and they're gonna give up on the rest, so they're gonna sell the half they have. Whatever the reason, maybe they're excited about a new heavy hitters hero and they need some cash for that. Whatever the reason, I think all of the prices of these figments and things are gonna come down probably about 30% or so by the time the set actually releases. We're also in off season, so there's not gonna be much flesh and blood for the next 2 months. People are gonna get insanely impatient. These cards aren't going to double overnight for them, so they're just going to want to try and drop them. Then they're going to start undercutting each other. So just wait, just cool down, hang off on the figments. I think it's all going to go down a bit. Cogworks base legs is an interesting case study because it's a $25 cold foil common, and I think this is the most expensive cold foil common we've seen in Fab 2.0, right? Obviously Crucible of War and Snapdragon Scalers, all that stuff is more expensive, but in Fab 2.0, people would always talk about like, ooh, maybe we should spec into a like Silken Touch or something like that, the cold foil version, and maybe we could buy it out and make some money off it, whatever. And it's never worked. People have tried with these kind of cards and it's never actually worked. I don't think anyone even bought out Cogworks base legs. It's just such a good card that it kind of organically dried up on the market, and now it's a $25 common. Granted, the cold foil common, but still, this is a price I don't think we've seen in Fab 2.0. Again, let me know if I'm wrong. I'm sure I might be missing something that spiked somewhere, but definitely not to $25. There's no way. The Embodiment of Lightning and Embodiment of Earth just don't exist on the market. This isn't like a recent thing. This was a promo on the prize wall for tickets at like Battle Hardens and things like that, and it was on the prize wall for like 6 months, maybe even a year. I don't actually know the exact time frame, but either way, it was there for everyone to buy, and it just doesn't exist anymore. None are for sale. It's kind of crazy. Well, on TCG Player anyway, none are for sale. Last sold was $250. This just goes to show, get out there, play these events, even if you think like you're not good enough or whatever to compete with the pros. You don't have to compete with the pros. Just show up, play some side events, get yourself an Embodiment of Lightning cold foil. You probably can't anymore, but get yourself whatever cold foils on the market, Token of Courage or whatever. And yeah, one day it's just going to totally disappear and you're going to have a grail on your hands. Kind of interesting. I thought, maybe some people didn't even know this existed, so it was worth talking about. Blood of Drakai, the rainbow foil, is $27. I'm not even going to explain myself here. This is stupidly cheap for a Fable. This is like a case hit, right? If you pulled a Fable from a case, you should be happy. And this is like the price of like 4 packs or something. Kind of insane. If you don't have one, I think you should just at least grab one, throw it in your binder, forget you even have it, and one day you'll be happy you did. Same with Diadem of the Dream State, a legendary for $4. It really is off season out here, boys. It's really off season. Like, I think this card is actually trash, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be trash, right? For $4, a legendary, is this card ever going to be good? Probably not. But if it is, like, your return on investment there is going to be insane if people actually start playing this card. Invoke Soraya is down to $10 for the cheapest rainbow foil on the market. Cheapest cold foil is at $26. This is an interesting case study, kind of what we were talking about with the figments, how things just eventually go down once all the hype is gone and the cards are actually in our hand. So yeah, the cold foil is $26, right? If we go back and look at old sales data here, hold on now. I'm just looking at rainbow foils, and they were like $22, $23. If we filter the sales cold foil and we go back, look, they were selling for $63, $60, $55. Like, these cards do go down after all of the initial hype from the spoilers. Once Prism Advent of Thrones got spoiled, that's when those cards jumped to $60. So just be patient, just wait, just pull this up as proof of, you know, this phenomenon happening. Crown of Dominion, this is a one we've speculated a bit on the channel. This is going down a little bit, all copies of it. The Marvel is at $280, and then if we look at the non-foil, or the rainbow foil is $60, and then the cold foil is $80. Not the most ridiculous stuff. Definitely was a little bit cheap, or was a little bit more expensive just recently. Drumeye is losing a bit of popularity, so it's going down a little bit, but that doesn't change that we know for a fact that gold token synergy is coming in heavy hitters, so it's possible that we'll want to start the game with a Crown of Dominion with a gold token in play, so we could take advantage of all of those synergies that may be coming in heavy hitters. So it's going down a little bit. If you want to spec into it for the heavy hitters, now is definitely the time, particularly if you've been holding off on it and you're a Drumeye player. Definitely pick one up now, because once these cards come out, once more gold token synergies get spoiled, it is possible that this could spike again. Emperor Drakai of the Asir, the cold foil. Last time we talked about this, it was like, what, $80 or $90, something like that. It has since returned to orbit. It is now only $36 for the cold foil. Just wanted to update everyone on that. Had to let it sit for a little bit. Ironsong Pride. This is like one of the most undervalued extended art majestics. I think it's only $16 for the cheapest rainbow foil, and this is like, not only is it just a super solid Dorinthia card, so if Dorinthia gets any support in heavy hitters, as more warrior support is announced, as more warrior support is spoiled, it's possible that this card could spike. But this isn't like a Dorinthia exclusive card. This isn't a card that can only be used with Dawnblade, right? It's possible that we get a sword that if you put a +1 counter on the sword, it just makes it a breakpoint. It just makes it like stupid and annoying to block, you know what I mean? We just don't know what swords we're gonna get. I think it's an interesting spec, you know, for when it came out, or its high, I guess, was like $40. So to see it at 16 is kind of like, whoa, this card might be underpriced, you know what I mean? Yeah, especially if you're a warrior fan, I would definitely recommend picking up a playset there. Crown of Providence, the cold foil is at $250, whereas if we look at the rainbow foil is only $96. And then if we look at the non-foil, here, I'll just pull it up because I don't want you guys to just take my word for it here. The non-foil is $91 from Dusk Till Dawn. So these two price points are just so similar, you might as well get the rainbow if you're going to buy it. But when this stuff first came out, the rainbow and the cold foil were actually like very close. They were maybe like $40, $50 different. And then, you know, now that it's been reprinted, the demand for the rainbow has gone down. People trying to foil out their decks only want the cold foil. This is a good example of always get the cold foil, particularly if it's just a little bit more money relative to the original cost of the card, right? You never know when these things could split off in this way. Yeah, particularly in the light of reprints, the rainbow foil just will never stand up to the cold foil. Invoke Tomultai, Dominia, Dracona Optimi, Themai. I'm pulling these all up. Themai is $11. Dracona Optimi is only $100. Invoke Dominia is only $130. Tomultai is $150. This is insane. The dragons are just totally plummeting now that she's not a tier 0 deck anymore. I have heard that there has been some investors that have, you know, had heavy bags into dragons and have had since to and have since had to drop their heavy bags. I don't know how true that is. Either way, dragons are cheap. If you're a Dromai fan, I recommend picking them up, and I'm doubling down on it this week. I mentioned this, I think, last week when I talked about this stuff, but I'm doubling down on it because on the Chadcast, James White was on the Chadcast with Sloop Dupe. You guys should definitely check that out if you haven't already. But James White even doubled down and said, like, yeah, of course we're going to, maybe once Dromai is rotated, we'll wait 2 years and then print another card that could use the dragons. So he even doubled down on what I was saying. They're not going to let the dragons die. They're too beautiful of cards. They're too many people's favorite hero in Dromai. I think it's all a safe investment if you're going to hold on to it long term, especially if you like the hero already. Get yourself a playset of all these dragons and bling out your deck a little bit. I think it's safe. Once Dromai's gone, it's not like this stuff's going to plummet or anything like that. Arcanine Skullcap, one of the best cards ever printed in the game, is only $24. That's kind of insane. Don't let anyone tell you Flesh and Blood's an expensive game anymore. Arcanine Skullcap, while most of the time is beat out by Crown of Providence, not always, right? Not always. Like our boy the Emperor, he only wants Skullcap. He already starts so low. Prism starts lower than your opponent. She's going to want Skullcap as well. Any hero that's printed with less than 40 life is probably going to prefer Skullcap to Crown of Providence. And for only $24, $25, I think it's definitely worth the investment. If you are going to pick it up, though, the Everfest non-foil is $25. But the Arcane Rising foil is only $32.
Nugget! Knock it off.
But the Arcane Rising foil is only $32. So unless, budget is just a super issue to you, I would just recommend getting the foil for the same reason we saw before in Crown of Providence. You just don't know if Skullcap, if the AB3 or something in Skullcap just becomes so relevant, people start playing it over Crown of Providence, or if Crown of Providence gets banned or something like that. I don't think that would happen, but in case, you just don't know. In case any of that happens, you don't want to be stuck with a non-foil and then watch the foil just go to the moon. Slice and Dice Extended Art, specifically the red one, but probably all colors is a huge safe investment, right? It's almost guaranteed that Kasai is going to be using this, and we don't know what the new warrior is, or the other warrior. I guess it could just be Dorinthia or something boring like that, but it could be a dual wielder, right? Maybe Bolton gets some double sword support. Maybe we just don't know. So either way, at least Kasai is going to use it. We don't know the other warrior. It's possible that they want to use it as well. For only $5 for the extended art rainbow foil, I think it's a good pickup. I think it's a solid investment. I want to talk a little bit about Tales of Arya. The Channel Lake Frigid alternate art is $115 at the moment, but then the regular Channel Lake Frigid is only $3. I remember buying this card for like $25 non-foil back in the day. I pull this up to show you that Tails is now belongs to the collectors. Like, we just can't open Tails anymore and feel good about it. If you look at it, it's kind of almost entirely held up by Starvo. There's a few generic cards in here, but yeah, all the elemental stuff is just tanking, which in turn is going to make the generic stuff go crazy. Another card that's tanking that I just think is interesting and I want to show you guys is Voltaire. It's only $16 now. Yeah, it kind of feels bad, but this is a good lesson to be learned in that you shouldn't be putting your excess money into like class specific cards, hero specific cards. I mean, class specific cards is okay, but not into like hero specific cards or talent specific cards. I would just recommend, instead of if you had foiled out your Voltaires, right? If you had foiled out your Codex of Frailties, or if you had foiled out your Rain Razors, your Three of a Kinds, all that stuff would still be all good and playable in Azalea and Riptide. So just kind of be smart with where you're putting your money. Realize that every hero is going to LL at some point. So prioritize the eternal cards over the non-eternal cards, right? Spellbound Creepers being one of them. Just a Runeblade card, anyone could play it. Kind of is a bit of a chase at the moment because it's the only thing you really want from Tales that's money. It's the only legendary that, I guess, New Horizon as well. But New Horizon and Creepers is like the only hits in that whole box. No one even wants to open it anymore because everything is just rotated and gone. And these cards that are the only hits in the box are the things that are going to go crazy because the EV of the box is still going to be so low. People aren't going to want to open it. And then, of course, they're just going to buy the singles. And that's just going to make the singles go crazier. Yeah, it's a vicious cycle. So particularly with a set like Tails where 99% of the cards are gone, not able to be played, rotated, whatever. I highly recommend going back and picking up all the cards you actually can play. Real quick, I want to talk about Coram. Again, another Fable that's probably way too cheap. It's off season right now, so everything is super cheap, like everything just across the board. But we already know when Heavy Hitters comes out, when Pro Tour LA happens, when all of this, the player base is going to come flooding back, and everything is going to go up quite a bit. So now is the time to be investing into the market. Now is the time to be picking up cards pretty aggressively, honestly. And then whatever you don't wind up playing, you could always dump it after things go up, after the Pro Tour, during the Pro Tour, before the Pro Tour, whatever. When people start returning, you could start getting rid of some cards. But I would start filling holes in your collection as you see fit now. Another good example of a generic, this is a class-specific generic, but class-specific generic from the same set, still just as scarce, still no one wants to open tails. This is the reason Terra Sunder is going up, $8. Well, it's like pretty much 10 after shipping for the cheapest copy of Terra Sunder. Cheapest rainbow foil, of which there's only 4 sellers for, is $14. Then it quickly jumps up to 20 and then 30. Barely any copies of this on the market. Again, for all the same reasons we talked about Spellbound Creepers being expensive and a good pickup, I'm going to say all the same stuff about Terra Sunder. Prism cards are getting super hype, and one of the ones that hasn't been touched is Pierce Reality. When I look at cards, the two things I look at is like, if I want to figure out if it's a good deal, I want to look at historically. One, what did the cards used to sell for, like in their prime, right? And if we just scroll down here without even loading more, it was selling for 20 at one point. So yeah, what did it sell for at one point? And then what does the scarcity look like? Like how much of it is out there? And if you look, there's only 16 copies of this one on the market. And then how many copies are on the market? So there's only 16 copies of Pierce Reality and only 14 copies of Haze Bending on the market, right? And then Haze Bending, same thing. If we load more sales here, it was also selling for $20-ish. So for $100, you could return Haze Bending and Pierce Reality back to what they used to sell for, which was $20. And then they probably sold for $20 when they were in the armory kits, right? When they were first coming out, when people were first playing the original Prism. So people maybe are focused on the figments at the moment, but once they start sleeving the deck and putting it together, and I don't know how the deck's going to look. I don't even know if they're going to play the blue cards. But picking up a playset of these isn't the worst idea, particularly because if you ever want to play Prism in LL format, these are obviously going to be very good. Any kind of sideboard package that's going to be needed to beat the Guardians with that current weapon. I don't know how they're going to be able to beat Guardian if Guardian just like blocks with 2 cards and swings with Hammer every turn. So I think they're going to have to probably side into some kind of package that involves more auras to kind of try and return it to a more traditional Prism versus Oldhim matchup. I think they're probably going to wind up playing these cards. I think these cards are definitely a bit undervalued at the moment. And again, that's because their playability just isn't quite there. But for $7, I think it's worth picking up a playset. And I did myself. I picked up a playset of each of these. Even if New Prism doesn't wind up playing them, I'm totally happy throwing them in my LL Prism deck. The Jacko Lantern cards almost are non-existent on the market. There's only one up here for $4 for the red. And then even the yellow and the blue had like 5 copies up here. So yeah, this goes back to the scarcity thing I was talking about. While this is just like a cute, fun, collectible kind of festive card, this is going to be one of those cards that years down the line, people aren't even going to know what it is, and you're going to look at it and be like, that's awesome. I want one of those. And as more people start to pick them up and collect them, obviously their price is going to go up, right? We're one copy away from going to $10 per. I was just looking around at Monarch, and then the Mark of the Beast extended art. There's one up here for $38. And while Levia doesn't quite play this card just yet, there's new Brute support coming in. Dusk Till Dawn. It's totally possible that they print something that makes you want to play a more Mark of the Beast style of Levia. And if they do, you're going to be wishing you had picked this up for $38. There's only one up here for $38. So probably I'm only helping one guy out by posting this. But yeah, I hope one of my subscribers could pick that up. Doomsday. This is an interesting one. So this is like Monarch's like one of the last Fab 1.0 sets, like one of the last true sets where the cold foils are actually better than the rainbow foils. Like I said with Mark of the Beast, a lot of people aren't really looking at Levia cards right now, but I know for a fact that some of the pro players are. Some people are thinking that she could be like gas now, like not enough stuff has rotated, her time has come kind of thing. And if that's the case, if you look at the rainbow foil for Doomsday, it's $37. And then if we look at the cold foil, it's $45. So $5 more, you get the premium, premium rarity of the card, premium edition of that card, whatever the big chase. If you're going to get it, just get the cold foil. To make a long story short, I think that price is too close together to not just grab the cold foil. That's all I got for you guys today, gamers. Don't forget to like, comment, rate, subscribe. Help the algorithm help me out just a little bit later, gamers.